लास्ट क्लास से इस क्लास के बीच में काफ़ी चीज़ें हो गई हैं. रिजल्ट्स आ गए, न्यू टॉपर्स आर नाउ हियर. हिस्ट्री का रिजल्ट काफ़ी अच्छा है इस बार. लॉट्स ऑफ टॉपर्स हैव इमर्ज्ड. एनीवे, अभी टॉपर्स को छोड़ देते हैं कुछ दिन, है ना, बिकॉज एक बार सिलेक्शन होता है 2-4 दिन तो जिंदगी जीने दो. Then we'll call them for their strategies. Anyway, many of them have cleared with flying marks. Many people who are getting around 270, 280, कुछ marks का selection रह गया है उनका. They have also calling me from last 1 week. सर क्या करें क्या ना करें. जिंदगी में एक टाइम आता है ना, existential crisis. Once you appear in the interview, feel like हो गया है. अब तो फॉर्मेलिटी बची है लिस्ट में नाम आने के लिए, बट नेचुरली कुछ का तो रहना ही है. दिस इज हाउ द एग्जाम इज. तो करेंगे उनके लिए भी मेहनत फिर से. बट एनीवे, वी वर डिस्कसिंग अबाउट एनसीईआरटीज. ओके, एक बार जल्दी से रिकैप कर लेते हैं व्हाट वी हैव कवर्ड इन एंशिएंट इंडिया सो फार, और अभी आज से हम क्या स्टार्ट करने वाले हैं. तो एंशिएंट इंडिया में अभी तक हमने रफली वी हैव डिस्कस्ड अबाउट द मीनिंग ऑफ सोर्सेस. We have discussed about what is the meaning of literary sources, what is the importance of archaeology in understanding Indian history. Then we have covered the initial phase of history known as Stone Age. Within Stone Age, 3 different parts are there, which includes Paleolithic, Mesolithic and Neolithic. These 3 parts we have covered along with their features. Then after that, we have covered the phase of Harappan civilization. हमने थोड़ा सा बाहर वाली सिविलाइजेशन को भी कवर किया था. आई होप ऑल ऑफ यू रिमेंबर. इजिप्ट, चाइनीज थोड़ा थोड़ा डिस्कस किया था उन सब के बारे में, मेसोपोटामियन. एनीवे, वो इसलिए किया था ताकि आपको क्रॉस कल्चरल अंडरस्टैंडिंग बन जाए. देन आफ्टर दैट इन द प्रीवियस क्लास वी हैव गिवन कंप्लीट वेटेज टू ओनली वन टॉपिक, दैट इज द अर्ली वैदिक एंड द लेटर वैदिक एज. वो हमने कवर किया था. टुडे वी आर गोइंग टू स्टार्ट विद सम मोर इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक्स. एंड इफ वी सी फ्रॉम एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, मैं आपको एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू इसलिए समझा रहा हूँ. देखो कि फाइनली जब सिलेक्शन होता है ना, तो हर किसी को एक ही चीज समझ में आती है, मैंने क्या चीज सही करी क्या चीज गलत. तो सही करने का मतलब पता क्या होता है. एक क्वेश्चन हमेशा कहां से आता है, सोर्सेस से आता है. एक क्वेश्चन एवरी ईयर इट्स गोइंग टू कम फ्रॉम हड़प्पन सिविलाइजेशन एंड वन क्वेश्चन विल ऑलवेज कम फ्रॉम वैदिक एज. दिस इज फिक्स, मतलब हमारा सिलेबस फिक्स्ड है. हमें अननेसेसरली चीजों पे ध्यान नहीं देना, बस ये देखना है जो हम पढ़ रहे हैं उसका रेलेवेंस क्या है. नाउ टुडे वी आर गोइंग टू स्टार्ट फ्रॉम 6th century BC. We had previously discussed that the Vedic period, its time period is from 15 to 6th century BC. ये इसका time period है. अब हम यहाँ से start करेंगे. 6th century BC is very very important in Indian history. Not only Indian history, in fact the whole of world history. पूरी ancient world history में बहुत important है. उसके कुछ specific reasons हैं. Okay, like number 1, this is the age of intellectual revolution. Please remember this word, intellectual revolution. Some new thoughts, new ideas are going to be on the scene of the human life, and eventually in case of India there were around 62 sects which emerged around 6th century BC. और जो सबसे ज्यादा important है, there are Buddhism and Jainism. So this is an intellectual revolution where people are now trying to come up with new understanding of human existence, and this existence can be explained in multiple ways. Okay, we'll discuss about them today. Second, this is also again very important because in India I will see state formation. When we were discussing early Vedic period and later Vedic period, हम एक चीज पे फोकस कर रहे थे that during the early Vedic period these people were nomads. There was no concept of state. By the later Vedic period some ideas of state emerged, but it was not fully evolved. जो state के 4 specific characteristics होते हैं, we should be aware about it: people, territory, government and sovereignty. These 4 are, when they come together, they are known as state. So this 6th century BC is again very important for India, and during this time we'll see rise of 16 states which are known as famously mahajanapadas. This is very very important. Every year UPSC asks one question from Buddhism and Jainism, and the next question which you always understand, it's about state formation. This state formation is going to reach its epitome, उसकी highest wavelength पे जब वो match करेगा, that is known as the Maurya. It starts from the Magad and it is the Mauryas, and within Mauryas we have one famous king, and that king is Ashoka. Every year we are getting one question from Mauryas. हर साल एक question वहां से आता है. ठीक है, तो जो भी हम आज पढ़ने वाले हैं इट इज मोर अबाउट अंडरस्टैंडिंग दोज एरियाज विच आर वेरी वेरी क्रूशियल फॉर आवर एग्जाम. तो चलिए स्टार्ट करते हैं. These two are the most notable achievement, but other than that also we have some more achievements. Like in India, this is the phase where we again see the emergence of script. Okay, script is going to come back, and this time decipherable है ना, हड़प्पन वाली नहीं कि लिख के चले गए पता नहीं चल रहा क्या लिख के गए हो. Now deciphered script will be there. We'll see the introduction of coins. So monetization of economy, trade and commerce is going to emerge from this time onwards, and with this again we'll see the rise of trade organizations. These trade organizations are known as guilds. Okay, so we'll see the rise of Indian economy. Indian economy जिसको हम बात करते हैं, इसकी सबसे जो basic foundation है, it starts from 6th century BC. Look, every economy requires circulation of coins. Without that, trade and commerce cannot increase to very high level. Okay, so from this time onwards we'll see the rise of coinage in Indian economy. All right, so all these are the important parts which we will discuss today. Let us start. इस पर बड़ा ध्यान देंगे because these are very very important topics. All right, and as we have discussed previously, whenever we discuss any topic, the first thing we discuss about is sources, कि हमें information कहाँ से मिलती है. So let us try to understand. So if we see 6th century BC, there are certain areas of information that we have with us. Okay, till the Vedic period we were only having the Vedas. सिर्फ Vedas था हमारे पास as a literary source. We were not having any other religion which can provide us some different kind of information. But this thing is going to change from now onwards. So most importantly, we'll see the introduction of Buddhist text. Buddhist texts are going to provide us a lot of information. Second, we also have the Jaina text from this time onward. Jaina texts or the sacred texts, they're known as agamas. They're also known as siddhantas. We'll talk about them later, but anyway, please try to understand Buddhist and Jaina sources are going to become very important for the understanding of 6th century BCE. Okay, so these two sources are going to add up. Along with that, the multiple chronological layers of Mahabharata and Ramayana. There is not one single story in Ramayana and Mahabharata. There are a large number of stories that we have, and they also provide us some information starting from 6th century BC. Then some of the foreign sources are also going to provide us information. We have various Greek historians. The most famous of them is Herodotus. Okay, so he wrote about India. He provided information about us, but the more important information later on, it will emerge from the writings of Arrian, Strabo, Pliny. All these personalities are going to provide us information. Okay, so that's why literary sources are going to widen up from 6th century BC. And one more important thing, this is the time of the emergence of script. So previously, whatever which was more of like the sayings of the mouth, they're now going to transfer into specific texts. So this is why literary sources are going to become very important from 6th century BC onward. Side by side, we also have certain archaeological evidences, and these archaeological evidences are very important because they help us in understanding about the progress which has been made by the humankind. Like we have discussed during the later Vedic period, we see the beginning of the rise of iron. Iron age start hota hai, but that iron age will take a major shape with the coming of 6th century BC. Iron objects like hoes, sickles, knives, tools, etc. are going to be utilized on larger scale, and then along with this, various kinds of art and craft, including textile, beads, pottery, etc. They are also going to provide us information. The signature pottery of this time. What is the signature pottery of these times? North black polished ware, NBPW. That will be seen in multiple places from this time onwards. So please remember, whenever we discuss about 6th century BC, we have literary sources also as well as archaeological sources. This is perhaps the first phase of Indian history where we have both at the same time. Okay, this is the first phase because majority for the Vedic period we do not have the archaeological sources. For the Harappans we were not having the literary sources. So that's why this is the first phase of history, and that's why please try to understand that whenever the nature of sources changes, because this is a change of nature of sources, right? And this allows us to have one of the most important point of any part of history, and that is what is known as corroboration कि दो अगर sources same information provide करते हैं, that means that our doubts over the historical events are now going to subside because same information हमें दोनों से मिलने वाली है. Okay, so that's why please understand the nature of sources from 6th century onwards. They're going to become diversified. They're going to provide us more important information about the overall changes in the historical realms. Alright, so please remember, sources are now widening for us. Plus, with the coming of the script, written sources are going to become very important. Now, before understanding any of these important events with respect to Buddhism, Jainism, state formation, one thing is very, very important, and that is the role of agriculture. Look, surplus, it's always dependent upon agriculture. Without that surplus, people will not have the convenience of leaving away their primary occupation and shifting towards something else. है ना कि अगर खाने को ही नहीं है, eventually you are going to be stuck. You have to participate only in agriculture. So this is a time phase where we see the development in the Middle Gangetic Valley. Wet rice cultivation began to yield more produce, and whenever we have surplus, surplus is the first requirement of the process of state formation. State तभी बनेगा जब उसके पास extra resources आ सकते हैं through the process of taxation. But how will you impose tax when the people are not having any kind of surplus? So since the surplus started from this time onwards, this was a very important achievement for the 6th century. Then whenever we talk about 6th century BC, there is a kind of debate among the various historians. Some of the historians who are from Marxist school, they say that 6th century BC saw a lot of progress because of the use of iron. Okay, that's the debate that we have with respect to 6th century BC. While other schools, including subaltern others, they criticize it, that too much reliance, too much emphasis has been made on the role of iron. Okay, iron, as we have previously discussed, in case of North India, roughly from 1000 BC, we see the use of iron. In case of South India, it starts a little bit early, around 1100 BC. In North India, we have places like Lahore Deva. In South India, we have places like Halur. Halur is a very important place for that. So these Marxists, as all of us understand, Marxist का main realm क्या होता है? What do they believe in? They believe that economic factors are responsible for shaping the history, and since iron is a part of an economic factor, they have given too much of reliance towards iron, and that creates the classic debate कि what is the role of iron in Indian history. Again, ये historiography NCERT में भी mention है, अभी इसको थोड़ा सा discuss करेंगे. Now, the impact of iron technology is better understood, okay, if we consider these. इसको एक लाइन को पढ़ना अच्छे से, लेकिन उन्होंने मेंशन किया हुआ है, the technical changes which with the introduction of iron implements would have brought about in various craft activities. There are two debates. One debate talks about the role of iron in agriculture, कि agriculture में क्या changes किया. Okay, these Marxists, they say that the ground was cleared with the use of iron, and second, even the implements, जैसे कि हम plowshare की बात करते हैं, हल जो चलाते हैं, ठीक है, that was now also made of iron, which allows us to have better agricultural practices. This is the first thing that they say. Second, they talk about the role of iron in various kinds of other art and craft activities. So NCERTs में देखो थोड़ा सा उस लेवल पे बातें नहीं की हुई हैं जो हमें चाहिए ऑप्शनल के लिए, बट what they have cleared out कि even though the first debate remains problematic, कितना रोल रहा होगा in the rise of agriculture, but their role in the production of various kinds of art and craft, that is very clear. वो बहुत clear है. इस डिबेट के अंदर 3-4 हिस्टोरियंस पार्टिसिपेट करते हैं, ठीक है. डीडी कोसंबी, one of the most finest historian of India, he says that the movement of Indo-Aryan toward the east, it was aimed at accessing the iron ore of South Bihar. South Bihar, as all of us know, Jharkhand area. Jharkhand area, it is very prominent for iron. Okay, gaining a near monopoly over it, the iron was responsible for the political dominance attained by the state of Magadh. Now this viewpoint, it's a bit controversial. Okay, कि सिर्फ जो movement है वो किस वजह से आ रही है? Because of iron resources. This was further supported by R.S. Sharma, one of the disciples of the same school. So R.S. Sharma said iron axes and iron plows led to expansion of area under cultivation in the Ganges Valley. Now eventually this was going to be countered by Makhanlal. So Makhanlal says that the use of iron X and the iron plow facilitated clearing of forest and generation of agriculture surplus is a pure myth. Why it's a myth? Because he's saying that this area remained heavily forested till 16th and 17th century, and this area was eventually made used by the only the British during the times of the colonialism itself. इस एरिया को क्लियर किया गया था. And further the counter comes from Nihar Ranjan Ray as well as Amalnanda Ghosh, and both of them they say that the forests of Ganga region could have been cleared also by the use of fire. Iron was not a prerequisite for the rise of agriculture in this area. Agriculture could have progressed even by the use of fire. So this is a big debate that we have in history. Okay, conclusion जो है वो बाद में discuss करेंगे, अभी conclusion नहीं है, अभी बस ideas समझो. That whenever we talk about 6th century BC, we have multiple historians and they say different kinds of things about the rise of agriculture, about the rise of various kingdoms. Like if we see D.D. Gosambi is directly linking the rise of Magdar with the rise of use of iron. उससे direct relation बना देते हैं. But that is something which is not very correct. Why? इसके ऊपर एक research किया गया. Research was that we'll see the use of iron at PGW level and we'll see the use of iron at NBPW level, है ना. तो roughly अगर 1000 BC पे कितना आयरन यूज हुआ है and 600 BC पे कितना आयरन यूज हुआ है उसको कंपेयर करते हैं. If the percentage of iron is increasing, it means the use of iron is expanding. However, it is more or less same level. Since the use of iron is of same level across these 500 years, it means that iron did not single-handedly lead the second अर्बनाइजेशन. अर्बनाइजेशन के लिए बहुत सारे फैक्टर्स साथ में आए, पॉलिटिकल, इकोनॉमिक, सोशल, कल्चरल. इट वाज नॉट जस्ट आयरन. आयरन के ऊपर बहुत ज्यादा एम्फेसिस मार्क्सिस्ट हिस्ट्री ने सिर्फ इसलिए किया है, दे वांट देयर मेथड ऑफ हिस्ट्री राइटिंग टू विन ओवर अदर्स. एंड यही हिस्ट्री का सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम भी बन जाता है, दैट इन ऑर्डर टू जस्टिफाई योर स्कूल ऑफ थॉट आप कुछ भी बोल देंगे, आप कुछ भी उसको जस्टिफाई कर देंगे. And that is a very important part which we'll discuss later on in our optional classes. But अभी के लिए इतना समझ लो कि जो आयरन का रोल रहा है, okay, in the rise of 6th century BC various innovation, that is a bit limited. वो पूरा exactly 100% ऐसा नहीं है जैसे कि Marxist historians argue करते हैं. Even Upinder Singh comes up with a very good explanation on this, that technology, okay, technology, yes, it is important for a very big change in the human lives, but it can't be responsible for एवरी चेंज इन ह्यूमन लाइफ. वो पॉसिबल नहीं है उस चीज के लिए. उसके साथ में और भी फैक्टर्स होंगे, पॉलिटिकल, सोशल, इकोनॉमिक, कल्चरल. ओके, लेट अस सी वेरियस एग्जांपल्स इन टुडेज वर्ल्ड. इफ वी सी झारखंड, ओके, झारखंड इट इज वेरी रिच इन रिसोर्सेस, बट डज दैट लीड टू वेरी हाई लेवल ऑफ डेवलपमेंट इन दैट स्टेट? तो कैसे पॉसिबल है? दैट्स व्हाई व्हेनेवर मार्क्सिस्ट हिस्टोरियंस ओनली फोकस ऑन द रिसोर्सेस, दैट इज द बिगेस्ट लाई. सी अफ्रीका, अफ्रीका हैज वन ऑफ द हाईएस्ट लेवल ऑफ रिसोर्सेज इन द वर्ल्ड. डायमंड वगैरह जाओ साउथ अफ्रीका में मिल जाता है, पेट्रोलियम भी बहुत है वहां पे. ठीक है, यू गो टू डिफरेंट पार्ट्स ऑफ अफ्रीका, वन ऑफ द हाईएस्ट रिच रिसोर्स कॉन्टिनेंट. बट इफ यू सी द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ दैट होल कॉन्टिनेंट, I would say it's the least developed continent among all the ones which are inhabited. मतलब अंटार्कटिका छोड़ देते हैं, but rest of them it's one of the least. So only resources cannot be responsible for rise or development. इस चीज को हमें बहुत clearly समझना चाहिए. इनफैक्ट एक टर्म यूज होता है इकोनॉमी में, डच डिजीज, कि जिसके पास भी ज्यादा पैसा होता है वो ज्यादा फिर आगे जाके ज्यादा सर्वाइव नहीं कर पाता उसको, है ना. इफ यू इवेंचुअली do not create the governance framework in any country, initially you may be rich but later on you may not survive. See the example of Mesopotamia I gave you in the previous class. Mesopotamia, one of the earliest place to see the beginning of civilization in the whole of world, and see the state of Mesopotamia today. This is the Middle East we talk about, always affected by one or the other kind of factors. Anyway, PPT तो आप लोगों के साथ शेयर कर देंगे. अभी बहुत ज्यादा हिस्टोरियन व्यूज के अंदर नहीं घुसना, बस लॉजिक्स को समझो कि जब भी 6th सेंचुरी बीसी स्टार्ट होता है किन किन चीजों पे हम बात करेंगे इन द फ्यूचर. एंड दीज आर द एरियाज व्हिच वी आर गोइंग टू एक्सप्लोर, एंड यूपीएससी आल्सो आस्क्स क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम देयर. देयर इज अ टॉपिक इन योर एंशिएंट इंडिया, इंपैक्ट ऑफ आयरन टेक्नोलॉजी इन एंशिएंट इंडिया. आयरन का रोल क्या है ओवरऑल. तो आयरन का जब हम रोल की बात करेंगे, दिस इज द इनिशियल डिबेट ऑन द रोल ऑफ आयरन. नेचुरली द रोल ऑफ आयरन इज गोइंग टू एक्सपैंड and this was responsible for the rise of imperialism. This was responsible for the rise of the empires like Mauryas. That is something which we are talking about 3rd century BC. Let us now go into the other aspects. Whenever we talk about urbanization, right? Urbanization का हमने बात किया था even at the time of Harappan civilization. Let us have some understanding one more time. So whenever we talk about urbanization, we talk about number one thing is always agriculture surplus, which can shift you from the primary economic activities to the secondary economic activities. Then the growth of craft and trade, which is naturally linked with agriculture surplus. After that, we again see the growing population. Like we see, villages are always sparsely populated, while the urban area, they are very heavily populated. This is Delhi ka example lo, Delhi and Haryana. And Haryana is something is having more geographical territory, but the population of Delhi is more than Haryana. So that shows that the larger areas mein Delhi sirf ek urban area hai. Emergence of towns in the Gangetic Plain, and eventually this is called second urbanization in history after the first urbanization evident in the Harappan civilization. So by 6th century BC, we again see the phase of second urbanization. Look, in Indian history, overall there are only 3 urbanization phases. The first is Harappan civilization. Then we see the ruralization phase under the Vedic Aryans. Then again we see the second urbanization. This second urbanization is going to continue till 300 AD, and this is as per the research of R.S. Sharma. Then he says that the phase of de-urbanization begins in India. But the story is not that much clear. The important thing is by 300 AD, we see decline of some previous cities of second urbanization, but at the same time, we do see rise of some cities from 300 AD onwards. However, the third phase of Indian urbanization, it starts with the coming of Turks, and that comes in 13th century AD. So 3 ही urbanization है. यूपीएससी में जब भी क्वेश्चंस आते हैं, एंशिएंट में आए चाहे मिडिएवल में आए, अर्बनाइजेशन के जो बेसिक्स है ना वो चेंज नहीं होंगे. It's always going to be same. It's always going to be same. You have to always remember that whenever urbanization is going to happen, it will have certain political factor, social factor, economic factor, as well as technological factors. All the factors are going to come together, and then only we'll have a phase of urbanization. After this third urbanization phase, we have never seen any higher level of de-urbanization in any phase of India. Okay, वो कभी हमने ऐसा देखी नहीं है. Even during the medieval times, India's urbanization was around 15%, which was more than medieval Europe. Which was more than medieval Europe. I hope you know about many of the travelers like Ibn Battuta who came to India, and they have given the cross-cultural comparison also. Like India as a city, Delhi as a city was second to none in the world. And during the time of Mughals, Agra developed as a very important center. So urbanization is something which was natural in India, and in India it happened on multiple occasions. Why? Because we were having agricultural surplus. That's the most important thing. Okay, why India has been seen as one of the mother of the civilization in the world? The reason is our agriculture has always been very strong. Okay, आज तो चलो ठीक है, technologically we are not comparable to USA, China in terms of agriculture, but in the previous times, yes, we were having 2 to 3 crops in the various regions of India, in which Europe was only one crop. वहाँ मोस्टली एक ही क्रॉप होता था साल में. हमारा रबी खरीफ तो बहुत पहले से चल रहा है, और ज़ेद सीजन को मिला ले जिसमें हम फ्रूट्स वेजिटेबल्स वगैरह भी ग्रो करते हैं, तो इट बिकम्स 3 seasons, 2 full-fledged and 1 in between. That's why agriculture surplus has plays a very important role in India's economic history. Now, whenever towns emerge in any part of the world, okay, they have certain characteristics. A town could be political and administrative center, like Delhi. Delhi is more of a political and administrative center, right? In those times, when you talk about 6th century BC, we see rise of Rajgriha, or what is the other name of Rajgriha? Huh? Yes, Rajgir, Shravasti, Kaushambi, or majority of the capitals of the 16 mahajanapadas. They were more like political and administrative centers. Some would be the centers of trade and commerce, like India ki capital Delhi hai, but if you talk about commercial capital, that is Mumbai, right? So in those times, if we see Ujjain, why Ujjain is important? Because Ujjain was linking the Uttarapatha with Dakshinapatha. 2 major trade routes were there, and Uttarapatha and Dakshinapatha, and Ujjain was a epicenter which was connecting both of them. Similarly, we also had Takshila. Takshila was connecting India with Central Asia, so it played a very important role in the Silk Route also later on, and holy centers like that of Vaishali. Okay, so whenever urbanization happens, it could be of different colors. It could be an administrative center, it could be a military center, it could be a commercial center, or it could be even holy center or any religious center. Like आज की डेट में religious center का बात करें, just creating Ram temple, okay, has converted Ayodhya, okay, it has converted Ayodhya into a holy center for tourism. Previously also it was recognized as the birthplace of Lord Ram, but the moment the temple got created, this is now going to shift it into completely different. So that is why whenever we see any major change, जैसे पहले कलकत्ता कैपिटल था, okay, under the British, the moment it was shifted to Delhi, तो दिल्ली का कुछ लेना देना था ही नहीं. Delhi was not something which was very important in the time of early 19th century, but the moment by 20th century the capital was shifted, again it became a very major political and administrative center. So we have to always remember, जब भी urbanization होगा, it's going to create different set of towns. Now when we talk about fundamentals कि urban areas को हम identify किस तरीके से करते हैं, तो आज का हम बात करें तो 75% of the people should be non agricultural activities, हम उसका बात करते हैं. More than 400 should be the density, है ना. इस तरीके के हम factors निकालते हैं, but ancient India में ये सब हम apply नहीं कर सकते because that urbanization was of different level. Like we talk about pottery, NBPW pottery is found in urban center. Second, we see these various cities or towns, they were fortified. That's again a feature of urbanization of earlier times. Third, the houses were either made of mud bricks, in some cases they were also made of burnt bricks, so that is a bit different from the other areas. Facilities is something which is very, very important. In general, the facilities provided in the urban area, they are more than rural areas. Education हो गया आज की डेट में, but in those times we're talking about drains, ring wells, soak pits, etc. That's why these were some of the urban features. Why you should remember them? हर साल एक क्वेश्चन इकोनॉमिक हिस्ट्री के ऊपर आता है which is very close to urbanization. तो आपको पता होना चाहिए what are the major features of any urban area, okay, during the early times of ancient India, and even they are going to continue later on also. कुछ features of same रहेंगे. Plus, whenever we talk about urbanization, please remember, along with urbanization, we see literate people. Okay, we see the coming of script. Okay, there are also major trade centers. So all these are the features of urban areas. तो ये सब आप याद रखेंगे at least at the idea level. Now we're talking about a term. Previously we had discussed that during the early Vedic period, we see the big development of the concept of jana or people. Okay. By later Vedic period, Jana turned itself into Janpada. The concept of state or Rashtra, the concept of Rashtra emerged for the first time, and eventually we see the rise of mahajanapadas. So now we are going to talk about what is the meaning of this mahajanapada. Meaning क्या होता है इसका, क्या क्या features इसके साथ linked होते हैं. ठीक है, कभी भी देखो ऐसे क्वेश्चंस आते हैं, अगर आपको अपनी कंसेप्चुअल क्लैरिटी बहुत हायर लेवल पे लेके जानी है तो छोटी छोटी चीजें आपको पता होनी चाहिए. जितना अच्छे से आपको पता होगी इवेंचुअली उतना ही अच्छा आप आंसर्स को लिख पाओगे. ओके, सो लेट अस सी, दिस इज द फेज ऑफ लेटर वैदिक पीरियड 1000 to 600 BC, and what do we see during this time? Transition from tribal structure based on lineage to territorial states. This is the first feature. These are now territorial states. These are not lineage based, है ना, चाचा मामा के हिसाब से नहीं चलेंगे अभी. Now they're going to be proper kingship. King is going to emerge. Okay. Second, Janas or the tribe, they migrated eastward and settled in specific regions. So उन्होंने अपने एक specific region बना लिया. Shifting loyalty, focus of loyalty shifting from tribe to territory, and then eventually Janpada, which literally means the place where the tribe set its foot upon. इसका exact meaning यही होता है. Okay. Pada means foot, Jana means people. So wherever they put their foot, that concept is known as Janapada. Then through competition and consolidation, the warfare within this Janpada eventually was responsible for the rise of Mahajanpada. They were able to capture one another depending upon their capabilities in the military warfare, and that's how stronger Janpadas expanded, incorporating the other Janas. Okay, and plus important, what is the characteristics of a state? Territory, population, government, and sovereignty. Please remember these four important points. Okay, whenever we talk about that during which phase India see emergence of a state, it's a debate. अभी मैं आपको बहुत ज़्यादा historians से bombard नहीं करने वाला, but there are some historians like Kumkum Roy who says कि जो स्टेट फॉर्मेशन है महाजनपदा में नहीं हुआ था, लेटर फेज ऑफ लेटर वैदिक पीरियड में हुआ था, तो वो सब पे भी बात नहीं करेंगे. बट यू शुड एटलीस्ट नो whenever somebody calls India as a state, India has 4 specific feature. Okay, within this the most important thing, it is about government. If government is on the weaker side, if government is not having elaborate functions, naturally it's going to affect its sovereignty. And this is the reason, like when tomorrow we'll discuss about Cholas, Cheras, Pandyas, South India की theme कल हम pick करने वाले हैं, तो वहां पे हम concept of state use नहीं करते. Okay, why? These we use the word like chiefdoms. Why we use the word chiefdom? Because the government was not in a evolved form. Like see today's government has very elaborate ministries, है ना, 50-60 ministries है जिनके अंदर बहुत सारे departments हैं. Under department there are different kinds of functions has been given to them, and eventually they are responsible for the overall machinery of India. So government in today's time, it is very elaborate, but in those times, like when we discuss about early Vedic period, government was having very few functions. 2-3 फंक्शन थे, 4-5 फंक्शनरीज थे उनके, इतना ही काम चल रहा था हर ट्राइब के लेवल पे. बट नाउ दिस इज गोइंग टू बिकम कॉम्प्लेक्स. ओके, एंड दैट्स व्हाई द फॉर्मेशन ऑफ स्टेट इज अ वेरी मेजर अचीवमेंट इन द लाइफ ऑफ ह्यूमन काइंड. व्हाई? बिकॉज थ्रू दिस वी यूज द इंस्ट्रूमेंट ऑफ स्टेट टू इंश्योर पीस एंड डेवलपमेंट इन द लॉन्ग रन. However, in those times, concept of state was different. It's not like today. Today we talk about welfare state. Today we talk about paternal state. In those times, such was not different kind of notions. However, there is one major outlier, and that is the person Ashoka, because Ashoka was the one who changed his nature of state. है ना, वो एक बहुत बड़ा example है, but we'll talk about that later on. Features of महाजनपदास, ये भी आपको एक basic level पे पता होना चाहिए. Number 1, they are territorial kingdoms. Second, they are trying to centralize the administration. We'll have a debate on this later on. What is the meaning of centralization? What is the meaning of decentralization? To what extent these kingdoms could have ensured centralization? That is also a big debate. Why? Because आज की तरह नहीं है यार कि मतलब एक कॉल किया पीएमओ से और काम हो गया, है ना. सेंट्रलाइजेशन या व्हाट्सएप पे ग्रुप बना के बैठे हैं सारे ऑफिसर्स कि हमारे एरिया में काम हो गया, काम खत्म. This is not how it used to be. For even small communication from place A to B, it required humongous time. है ना. और अगर आपको मान लो आना है मगधा से जाना है कर्नाटका, है ना, घोड़ा लेके चले हो ना, तो इट्स गोइंग टू टेक टाइम. सो सेंट्रलाइजेशन ऑफ टुडेज लेवल इज वाज नेवर पॉसिबल इन द प्रीवियस टाइम्स. इसको कभी भी मत अज्यूम करना कि पहले बहुत सेंट्रलाइजेशन था. नो, सेंट्रलाइजेशन इज ऑलवेज गोइंग टू इंक्रीज विद द यूज ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी, विद द यूज ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन नेटवर्क. और ये दो बहुत बड़े रीजंस हैं. दैट्स व्हाई वी डू नॉट कंसीडर इवन मौर्यस एज सेंट्रलाइज्ड टुडे, कि भाई सेंट्रलाइज नहीं था मौर्य. Even though they were having a very elaborate setup of the machinery, ना कि उनके पास 27 अध्यक्षास थे to control various parts of economy as well as military, but still we consider as not that centralized. So जब हम word centralized use करते हैं, NCERTs में ज्यादा ध्यान नहीं दिया था उसके eventual debate की तरफ. That's why word आप pick कर लो centralized, but eventually अगर इसके ऊपर कोई debate आ जाता है तो आपको तरीके से उसको refine करके लिखना पड़ता है, which we'll learn later on. Sovereign ruler, yes, eventually there's going to be a sovereign ruler. Taxation and redistribution, very very important. Okay, please try to understand, this is one of the foremost work of a state. What is the foremost work of a state? That they get the resources from their people with the use of taxation, and then eventually the resources which have been utilized, they will be redistributed. Okay, they will have some welfare functions, they will go for some public works. So that's why eventually the features of Mahajanpada becomes very very important. And finally, maintaining law and order. Without this, no state is going to exist. Okay, on daily basis, if there is law and order problem, that state is not going to exist. See Iraq, see Syria. What's the state of law and order? They are not going to exist for a longer time if that is going to continue. The state of civil war. Like see the case of Myanmar, our neighbor. आज पढ़ा होगा न्यूज में 50% ऑफ टेरिटरी ऑफ म्यांमार इज नाउ अंडर द कंट्रोल ऑफ द आर्म्ड इंसरेक्टर्स, है ना, उनके कंट्रोल में आ चुका है. सो व्हेनेवर लॉ एंड ऑर्डर इज गोइंग टू गो डाउन, द स्टेट सिस्टम इज बाउंड टू कोलैप्स. दैट्स व्हाई इट्स वन ऑफ द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट ड्यूटी ऑफ द स्टेट टू मेंटेन लॉ एंड ऑर्डर. सो सपोज इफ यूपीएससी आस्क यू अ बेसिक क्वेश्चन, कभी पूछ ले कि क्रिटिकली इवैल्यूएट द वेरियस फीचर्स ऑफ महाजनपदास ऑफ 6th century BC, so you should at least know these 5-6 points. इसके ऊपर हम और एग्जांपल्स बाद में ऐड कर सकते हैं, बट एसेंशियली व्हाट आर द फीचर्स ऑफ अ महाजनपदा यू शुड बी अवेयर अबाउट, पता होना चाहिए. एंड एज वी ऑल ऑफ यू ऑलरेडी स्टडी, these महाजनपदा were essentially a state. तो ये चार पार्ट हमेशा साथ में चलेंगे, टेरिटरी, पॉपुलेशन, गवर्नमेंट एंड सॉवरेंटी. This is the introduction of the 6th century BC. Now we are going to go more into the various aspects of 6th century BC. I hope all of you are aware about 16 Mahajanpadas. Different set of lists have been given by Buddhist sources, Jaina sources, and some of the Hindu sources also. I'm using the word Hindu, but in those times the word Hindu was not that much popular. Okay, in those times more popular word, they were either Vedic or they were Puranic Hinduism. Okay, so anyway, the various sources that we have of the ancient India, they mention roughly 16 Mahajanpadas, starting all the way from the northwest, where we have the areas like Kamboj and Gandhara. In the south, we have the places like Ashmaka, and the easternmost it was Anga. Okay, so this was the area, and majority of the Mahajanpadas, they were in the northern part of India. Okay, they were not in the southern part. Why they were not in the southern part? It does not mean that any form of government was not existing in the South India. The only thing that we need to conclude from this is state system was not evolved in South India. All those four factors: people, territory, government and sovereignty, and most importantly sovereignty. Okay, if the government is not able to use its sovereignty on its territory, eventually it is not self-sufficient. तो वो problems South India में था उस time पे. North was mostly transiting towards a state system. If we see these 16 Mahajanpadas, roughly we can see their names like we have Gandhara, Kamboj, Ashmaka or Asaka, Vatsa, Avanti, Surasena, Chedi, Malla, Kuru, Panchal, Matsya, Vajji, Anga, Kashi, Koshal as well as Magdas. And now when we talk about 16 Mahajanpadas, some of them they were monarchies, some of them they were Gana Sanghas. Gana Sangha is a word which is utilized, which means that they were oligarchies. Okay, many historians they use the word republic. Okay, republic means the topmost person or the topmost citizen or the topmost ruler of the country is elected. That is the meaning of republic. Like in case of India, we have indirect election for the post of president. We do not have the direct one. जरूरत नहीं है उसके लिए, because we are a prime minister government. So naturally we are a republic. But if we see the case of Britain, Britain is a monarchy. Okay. In case of 6th century BC, Ganasangha is a more appropriate term. Don't use the word republic. Why we don't use the word republic? Why? Because the power it was concentrated in few Kshatriya families. तो oligarchy word ज़्यादा important होता है with respect to defining these some of the state system rather than using the word republic. But आज की डेट में देखो, the Greeks also say that they were having republics, but it's not like today's democracy. The kind of features of today's democracy and of 6th century BC can never be same. जैसे कि जिसमें सबसे first factor जो आता है, like whenever we say democracy, we use these simple words, the government of the people, for the people and by the people, of the people. Okay, but it's not always of the people in 6th century BC. Those who were powerful, they could always wrest power. Power को ले सकते हैं दूसरे लोगों से. Okay, by the people, it means that whenever there is going to be any major decision making, eventually people should be able to participate in that. But as all of us know, women were not part of the majority of the political systems of ancient India. So the first litmus test of a true democracy is always out. Second, with the development by 6th century BC, the development of the Varna order or the Varna system, again majority of the oligarchies, they were under the control of Kshatriya families. Like whenever we talk about Buddha, he belongs to Sakya clan. So this Sakya republic, the word we use, it was not a more of a republic, it was more of a oligarchy, because some Kshatriyas, powerful Kshatriyas, they were controlling the governance process. तो ये भी हम डिबेट बाद में इसके ऊपर लेके चलेंगे, because UPSC ऐसे क्वेश्चन पूछता है एंशिएंट इंडिया में जो डायरेक्टली एनसीईआरटी में उनके बारे में ज्यादा बात कभी होगी नहीं. बट एनीवे थोड़ा सा इनके बारे में बात कर लेते हैं कि इनके फीचर्स क्या क्या होते थे. व्हाट द डिफरेंस बिटवीन अ गना संघा एंड अ मोनार्की, उनके बीच में डिफरेंसेस क्या क्या हैं. लाइक नंबर 1, दे डिड नॉट कम अंडर द सिंगल डिसीजन मेकिंग authority. This is the first difference. Okay, in an oligarchy there used to be multiple people who used to sit together and they used to take the final decisions. Number one difference that we have. That's why later on Kautilya said कि अगर इन लोगों को खत्म करना है, if you want to finish off these oligarchies, the easiest method is to create dissension among themselves. उनके बीच में फूट डाल दो, खुद ही लड़ाई वड़ाई करके खत्म हो जाएंगे. It will be easy for us to then conquer them. This was the biggest limitation of Gana Sanghas. Number 1. Second, they were not having a standing army. Standing army का जो concept है, it was more in the case of monarchies. Here there used to be army, but that army only used to be summoned or they used to be called when there used to be any major fight. Standing army का concept नहीं था इनके में. तो ये दो बहुत बड़े differences हैं. Number 3 difference अगर आप बात करना चाहो, it's on the basis of geography. Majority of these oligarchies, they were around the foothills of Himalayas, while the majority of the major kingdoms or the monarchy, they were in the plains. वो plains में देखो हमेशा resources क्या होते हैं, ज़्यादा होते हैं. So that those resources can be utilized for having a full-time army, which is mostly not with the hill states. So these are the major differences. So let us see the different points also. The proto-states of Gangetic Valley, they were known as Janpadas and comprised of chiefdoms, republics as well as small kingdoms. Gana Sangha or oligarchy was centered on clans. Clans basis पे वो चलते थे. The Vrijis, like all of us know, Vriji were one of the best known Gana Sangha and Vaishali was the capital. Okay, they did not come under the single decision authority of a king, but decisions were taken on collective basis by the head of different clans together, and there were also smaller kingdoms such as Koshal and Kashi. Like in the case of Vaishali, 7,707 kings were there. 7,707 kings. इनसे कैसे डिसीजन ले लोगे? अगर हम बात करें मतलब पॉलिटिक्स की, जब हम बात करते थे कोएलिशन पॉलिटिक्स की कि 10-15 लोग आगे बात करेंगे, उनसे डिसीजन लिया नहीं आता टाइम पे. एंड हियर देयर वर मोर देन 7,000. चलो ठीक है, मान लेते हैं कि इट कुड बी अ फिगर ऑफ स्पीच कि हर जितने भी सिटीजन होंगे सबको राजा बोल दिया खुश करने के लिए. बट नेचुरली अगर यहाँ पे 70 भी है, then also it's a very big problem because it's so difficult to take decisions when the decision making it is divided into different parts. तो कैसे लोगे डिसीजन, किस तरीके से हम डिसीजन लेंगे? तभी तो हम मतलब मोदी जी came for election in 2014, है ना? He said that because of the coalition politics India has went behind by 50 years, right? Why? Because coalition politics में डिसीजन लेगा हमेशा क्या होता है, डिफिकल्ट होता है. And that is a kind of system which was possible in the case of Gana Sanghas. And they were also smaller kingdoms such as Koshala and Kashi. Smaller थे because majority of them, they were in the foothills of Himalayas and they were not having any kind of major resource revenues. Because देखो major resources कहाँ से आते हैं? If we see in the case of ancient India as well as medieval India, the number one is going to come from agriculture. Agriculture was the mainstay. Industrial revolution is of 18th century. Before that everything, every resource, it was dependent upon agriculture. अगर एग्रीकल्चर अब कहाँ होगा, हिली रीजन्स में. वेरी लिमिटेड लेवल ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर कैन बी प्रैक्टिस्ड इन द हिली रीजन्स. सो दैट्स व्हाई नेचुरली द रिसोर्स कैपेसिटी ऑफ दोज रीजन्स इज गोइंग टू बी ऑन द लोअर साइड. रिसोर्स कम है तो आर्मी नहीं रख पाओगे फुल टाइम. ओके, यू आर ओनली गोइंग टू हैव आर्मी ओनली फॉर दैट पर्पस व्हेन यू हैव टू फाइट. तो आप मोबिलाइज करोगे rather than you're going to train them on regular basis. All right, so these are some of the problems with these Gana Sanghas. On the other hand, we have monarchies. So number one feature of monarchy, it is going to be hereditary. Okay, people are not going to have any say in choosing the king. That is something which is very much linked to monarchy. Second, succession is going to be based mostly on the law of primogeniture. Primogeniture means the eldest son is going to get the first right to become the king. Okay, but naturally कितना respect होगा हमें पता नहीं. Ashoka killed his 99 brothers to become the king of Mauryas, right? So to what extent this is respected, that's a different story altogether. Like similarly we see in the case of Mughals also, that at the time of Aurangzeb, he also killed his elder brother Dara Shikoh, he was killed. So to what extent primogeniture is going to be respected, that's a different story. But in general, this is something which is going to be followed. Number 3, centralized administration with the head king at the head. So he is going to centralize. Here centralization does not mean every decision is going to be taken by the king. However, every decision can be influenced by the king, at least. How? Because he will choose the people in different capacities. Who is going to become a governor, who is going to become a specific post, that decision is taken by the king directly. Councils, they are going to help, like Parishad Sabha, assisting the king in an advisory role. And finally, Vedic priest. The role of priest becomes very, very important in the case of monarchy. Because कौन बताएंगे उनको सूर्यवंशी, चंद्रवंशी? Why would people accept them as their king or queens? Why would they accept them? They will accept them only when eventually they are going to have the legitimacy which is given by the priest. प्रीस्ट हमेशा वाहवाही करेंगे उन लोगों की, एंड इन रिटर्न दे आर गोइंग टू गेट गिफ्ट्स, दे गोइंग टू गेट दान दक्षिणा, जो भी पॉसिबल है. ओके, दैट्स व्हाई द रोल, दैट्स व्हाई मोनार्की आर मोर पावरफुल. That's why monarchy are always more powerful in ancient as well as medieval India, and this is the major reason. Okay, because priests have a very big influence on people like you and me. Okay, starting from our names, क्या नाम होगा आपका. Okay, it also depends upon the kind of various, जो भी मतलब निकालते हैं वो कुंडली वगैरह निकाल के कहाँ से आपका नाम होगा, आर ई जिससे भी स्टार्ट होगा. एनीवे, स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम योर इवन at the time of your career कि कौन सा career अच्छा रहेगा इनके लिए. Okay, even later on, so they have a very big influence on the lives of people, and when they're going to give legitimacy to king, people are going to accept it. That's why in monarchy the role of priestly class becomes very, very important. Economy and taxation, as all of us understand, they're going to have regular taxes like bali, bhag, as well as on other kind of commercial activities. They can always come up with kar and shulk. So this is something which we are going to discuss about 6th century BC. Okay, social structure का अगर हम बात करें, that we have already covered about the Varna system. I hope all of you remember what was Varna system. Initially it was based upon color. Okay, later on it got shifted towards profession, and finally it got linked to birth. In whichever family you are born, you will take that Varna. So stratified society based on Varna system. Second, we see the rise of some rich landowners, okay, and they were given the title of Grihapati, okay, or Gahapati, Grihapati or Gahapati. This is the title which is given to them. Small landholders, they were given the title of Kasakas. Shudras, they were mostly among the trades like cultivator as well as artisan, but in majority of the cases, उनको सिर्फ एक ही ड्यूटी देते थे. They were going to serve the above 3 varnas, but धीरे धीरे करके उसको रिलैक्स कर दिया गया. New social categories, also we see the rise of untouchables. By the 6th century BC, this category was now going to become prominent. Okay, and these people's some certain kind of disabilities were imposed upon them. क्या कुछ चीजें नहीं कर सकते. Like they lived on the fringes of settlement. They cannot have home at the center of any village. हमेशा कहाँ होगा? On the outer side. Second, they were marginalized and given very menial jobs. Okay, they were given very menial jobs. And number 3, they spoke different languages also from the Indo-Aryans in majority of the cases. Then we see emergence of new categories linked to rise of urbanization also. In the urban area also we see rise of certain kind of untouchables. Religion, this was a time where Vedic orthodoxy was as an established practice, and priestly class has high status. And this is the major reason why we see the rise of the heterodox sects. Why? Because the society, it was getting more rigid. Okay, it was getting more rigid. The ideas of Upanishad, they were not clearly understood by the people that commonly. When somebody was talking about Atma, Brahma, okay, Maya, what would you understand from that? It's so difficult to understand them. That's why those kinds of personalities were having the opportunities in the 6th century BC who can bring out some lucid information, lucid logics, which can make you understand the whole existence of humanity.
Hi, a very good evening to all of you. I'm Vikas Ahlawat. I'm a former civil servant. I was able to crack UPSC twice. In fact, in 2018, I was able to get highest marks in history optional, and they were around 324. So this year, I'm coming up with a series which I am calling Self-Study History Optional. इस series में 100 से ज़्यादा वीडियो होने वाले हैं, which are going to cover the different nuances of ancient, medieval, modern as well as world history. So those of you who are preparing for 2025, register करिए and try to get the maximum out of this specific initiative of ours. So at Prepcareer IAS, we are producing results from last many years. 2023 में बहुत सारे टॉपर्स हमारे इंस्टीट्यूट से थे. 2022, 21 हर साल बहुत अच्छे टॉपर्स यहाँ से निकले हैं. And they have been able to get very good marks in history optional. So those of you who are thinking कि यार start करके कितना कर पाएंगे कितना नहीं कर पाएंगे, we already have achievements with us. I was able to achieve, my students are achieving, and you can be the next. इन सेशंस में क्या होने वाला है? नंबर 1, विल बी फोकसिंग ऑन फाउंडेशन ऑफ बेसिक कंसेप्ट्स स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम व्हाट इज हिस्ट्री, व्हाट इज हिस्टोरिकल पीरियड, व्हाट इज प्रोटो हिस्ट्री, व्हाट इज प्री हिस्ट्री, बेसिक लेवल. ओके. सेकंड, अलाइनमेंट विद यूपीएससी सिलेबस. जितना भी हिस्ट्री ऑप्शनल का सिलेबस है वो 51 पार्ट्स में डिवाइडेड है. सो वी आर गोइंग टू अलाइन ईच एंड एवरी कंसेप्ट विद द सिलेबस इटसेल्फ. नंबर 3 वी गोइंग टू फोकस ऑन आंसर राइटिंग. ऑल ऑफ यू नो कि जो मेंस है वो ऑब्जेक्टिव नहीं होता है, वो सब्जेक्टिव लेवल पे होता है, और आप सब लोगों को आंसर राइटिंग सीखना शुरू करना पड़ेगा, है ना. वी डू नॉट हैव टू मच ऑफ टाइम, तो जिस स्टार्टिंग से ही आंसर राइटिंग शुरू करेंगे. एंड नंबर 4, द ओवरऑल पैकेज इज़ वेरी हॉलिस्टिक इन नेचर. तो अगर आप इसको अच्छे से कर लेते हैं तो जो बेसिक लेवल फाउंडेशन हिस्ट्री ऑप्शनल की वो कंप्लीट हो जाएगी. यू आर गोइंग टू गेट मैनी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग्स अलॉन्ग विद दिस. ओके, 100+ सेशन है, चारों पार्ट कवर होंगे. थीम वाइज सेग्रीगेटेड डायग्राम, फ्लो चार्ट, जितने भी इंपॉर्टेंट एनसीईआरटी हैं. देखो, अगर हम सारी एनसीईआरटी को कंबाइन कर दें, एंशिएंट, मिडिवल, मॉडर्न वर्ल्ड ऑफ वेरियस बोर्ड्स ऑफ इंडिया, तो 25 से 26 एनसीईआरटी निकल के आती हैं. उन सबको हमने कोहेरेंट फॉर्म में डिज़ाइन किया है सो दैट यू कैन लर्न द बेस्ट फ्रॉम दैट. ओके, बिकॉज देखो हिस्ट्री में रिसर्चेस चलती रहती हैं. अभी तमिलनाडु की जो एनसीईआरटीज हैं, दे आर मोर इंपॉर्टेंट इन कंपेरिजन टू द रीसेंट हिस्ट्री देन द प्रीवियस हिस्ट्री, जो कि आर.एस. शर्मा वगैरह, सतीश चंद्रा या फिर बिपिन चंद्रा ने लिखी हैं. दैट्स वाई वी आर कवरिंग ऑल द एनसीईआरटीज एंड दैट्स वाई 100+ सेशंस हो जा रहे हैं टोटल मिला के. देन 30+ वैल्यू एडेड आपको डॉक्यूमेंट मिलने वाले हैं, डेडिकेटेड आंसर राइटिंग सेशन मिलेंगे, जूम सेशंस भी करेंगे बाद में, ताकि आप लोगों की जितनी भी डाउट्स हों विद रिस्पेक्ट टू लर्निंग दे कुड बी सॉल्व्ड. ओवरऑल जो है आपको क्लास की पीपीटीज मिलेंगी, कंसेप्ट लिस्ट मिलेगा, पीवाईक्यूज, जितने भी पीवाईक्यूज हैं उनको अच्छे से हमने डिज़ाइन कर दिया ताकि आप सब उनको अच्छे से पढ़ सकें. माइंड मैप मिलेंगे पूरे सिलेबस के, वर्कबुक और लर्निंग असाइनमेंट्स मिलेंगे, एंड सेल्फ असेसमेंट टेस्ट, सो दैट वंस यू लर्न समथिंग तो साथ में उसको एटलीस्ट इवेल्युएट भी करना चाहिए ना, कि भाई हमें कुछ समझ में आया भी है, नहीं आया, एटलीस्ट जितना रिक्वायर्ड है वहाँ तक पहुँचे हैं या फिर नहीं पहुँचे हैं. तो आपको करना क्या है, वट वी नीड टू डू दैट, सबसे पहले आप रजिस्टर कर लीजिए. ठीक है, आपको एक स्पेसिफिक गूगल शीट मिलेगा, उसमें आप रजिस्टर कर लीजिए. देन एज ऑल ऑफ अस अंडरस्टैंड, हर किसी के पास लिमिटेड स्लॉट्स हैं, तो आपको एक स्पेसिफिक कॉल आएगा, एंड दैट इज समथिंग विच वी आर कॉलिंग एट स्क्रीनिंग प्रोसेस. बिकॉज अगर हमें आपको ये सारी सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड करनी है, द नंबर ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स विच वी कैन हेल्प दे आर ऑलवेज लिमिटेड इन नेचर. सो अकेडमिक काउंसलर इज गोइंग टू कॉल यू, दे गोइंग टू हेल्प यू, और दे गोइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड आपकी रिक्वायरमेंट क्या है. हो सकता है आप कॉलेज के फर्स्ट ईयर में हो, सेकंड ईयर में हो, थर्ड ईयर में हो, और यू मे हैव ऑलरेडी प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर सम टाइम एंड यू आर नॉट गेटिंग द डिजायर्ड रिजल्ट. तो इसलिए हमें स्क्रीनिंग प्रोसेस चाहिए होगा. एंड फाइनली ऑन द basis of this, you're going to get the benefit of this program.